Hey guys. Anyway, there's two videos in particular. One I'm not gonna fool with right now. That well, they're not bad videos. They're videos that I found very enjoyable and got me to thinking, on these subjects again. And it's great. That's why it's great to, look at what other people are saying and doing because it makes you think, and it sometimes it'll bring you back to points that you have forgotten that are actually very important. But I'm gonna point these two videos out just so you guys know. The first one is by Sir Williams, Your Inheritance from Adam, Original Sin. So that's Sir Williams. Check that out. And I encourage both of these gentlemen on this particular video series to keep going. I like the angle that you're taking and keep focusing on that subject because there's so much more to say. And the second one is by Daryl Neville, Jesus and the Hypostatic Union, Trinitarian Questions. He's that British fella. I think he's friends with David McMurdo. I don't know, but it is Jesus and the Hypostatic Union. They're in my favorites. You can find them both in my favorite section. And but the one I want to focus on is Jesus and the Hypostatic Union by Daryl Neville, and he's talking about the Trinity and could it even be possible, and just a bunch of great points and questions that he's asking, and they're very very common sense. Very, 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 very common sense. But what I want to do is focus in on an aspect of that and maybe point out some things to people who haven't thought about this before. And I did an old video a long time ago called The Ego of Jesus. And I think it's one of the most important subjects to understand in all of this. So I got some props. Okay, not to be outdone by certain other brothers who have props on their videos. But so in the Trinitarian line, I'm not going to talk about the Trinity. I'm just going to talk about Jesus right now, because usually, anyway, that's what the argument devolves to. It's not too hard to defeat the Holy Spirit argument. That's just being honest. Usually, that one falls pretty easily. So what they do is they just focus on Jesus being God. That's really what the argument becomes. But I do have a question for all you guys out there who believe Jesus is God or Trinitarians. Okay, so here we have Jesus. Now let me correct that. Here we have Yahovah, the Son, God the Son. He's a good-looking guy. He's got his hair. He's got him a nice little tie here. My kids are very destructive, by the way. And as you can see, his pants are busted. So here we have Yahovah. Okay, this is the guy. This is the guy we're gonna call God the Son. This is the one that existed from eternity past. All right. And what people want to do is say in John, what they're saying is that this guy went down and became this guy. And I picked this guy actually for a reason, because he looks like a dumb thing, doesn't he? He's just buttons for eyes. He's not like a replication of a real person. He looks like a toy, doesn't he? Like he's not real. And then what you want to do is say that this person is actually like inside of this guy. Okay, these two are the same somehow, and they walk around together. And sometimes this guy speaks, and then sometimes this guy speaks through the limitation of this guy. But what I want to focus on is how you create two different people, and I want to know what happened to this person. Okay, this person right here, because this is important to understand. This person knew everything. He created. He's God. He's omniscient, omnipresent. He's everything. He is God. But this person here was afraid, was ignorant, didn't know when he was coming back, didn't know the will of God sometimes, apparently. He prayed in the garden, please take this cup from me. He doubted. He cried out to his father, 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 why have you forsaken me? So, you tell me, what does it mean? What defines a person? It's what they know. So this person here, who knows everything and omniscient, is a mind. He's a person all by himself. God the Son in his word form. This person didn't know everything, was afraid. In other words, they both view the world a certain way. He views it from that he created it, and he's God. He views it from trying to do the will of God and trying to understand and trying to do. My question to you is this a person? To have two completely different knowledge sets means you have two people. I think it's absurd to try and look at it any other way. And what happens at the cross? Does this person just die and never exist again? And it's only this person now? The person who knows everything? The person who didn't know everything just died and ceases to exist? Or does he still exist? Is there still this duality in Jesus? Does one know everything and the other one still doesn't? And here's the scary part. For all of you who want to meet Jesus, you're going to meet this guy. This is Jesus to you. You don't know the Word. Okay? You don't. You don't know this person that existed in eternity past. You knew this guy who was created, who was once dead, and is now alive forevermore. This suitcase that the Word drags around and discards at the end. And I point this out to Jehovah's Witnesses, to everybody. This is the one who overcame the world. This is the one who died and shed his blood on the cross. This is the one that is the mediator between God and men. This one can't be the mediator between God and man because he is God. He's God. You can't mediate between yourself. But what about this guy? This is the one the entire Bible's about. This is the one when the Bible says it speaks of me. This is who he's talking about. He has a different knowledge set. He sees the world a different way than he will. These are two different people. Two different people. And the hard question you got to ask yourself is at the cross, when he dies, and this one in your Gnostic philosophy goes, he goes back to heaven. And this one is here, Father, why have you forsaken? They're two different people. And you have to say, this man, this guy who overcame the world, who did everything, you make him a toy. He's nothing to you. He's not even a person. Because he dies. He has to revert back to this. Because God says, I don't change. So if you're going to say he changed his nature to permanently become a man, even after the resurrection, conflicts with the Old Testament. But think about this to yourselves if you're a Trinitarian. Two different knowledge sets are two different people. Unless you're saying this guy literally had no mind. He had no ego. He had no personality whatsoever. You have to say he's purely just a flesh nature, and that's it. So this one didn't actually die on the cross. It was this flesh nature. And so it wasn't even a person at that point. It wasn't even as human as you and me. And it's funny. When it comes to me, you'll say I'm totally depraved. I can't stop sinning. I'm a child molester in waiting. I'm a murderer in waiting. I'm just this evil. I was born into original sin. Well, guess what? You got to say it about him too. How come you don't say it about him? You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say he was truly a man and truly God. You got to say this. You got to be consistent if he's truly a man. And I can test you who he was. And that original sin is a stupid doctrine. But think about it if you're a Trinitarian. What happens to this guy? He has, surely, you would say he had his own understanding and dreams and fears. And he was a real human being. But belief in this guy makes this guy not even a human being. He's not even a human. He's less than a human. He's just an animal. He's a suitcase. He doesn't really do or say anything. He does. And see, and then what's funny is this guy overcomes the world. His blood saves the world. This guy doesn't have any blood. He doesn't. He's the Word. He's a spirit. Spirit doesn't have blood. And even if he took on a human nature, like you said, he took it on. It's not who he is. Then that's not even his blood. That's not his. It's this thing's blood, this human nature's blood. But more importantly, we see that this was resurrected. and was still a man and still had God. He had a new nature. He was a human. And Paul calls it the second Adam. He was brought into a spiritual state, but he still had a God. Still. And then he receives, revelation from God. Book of Revelation is a funny thing to think about when he's this. Because he gets a revelation from God post-resurrection. So there's still things he does not know unless it's shown to him by the Father. So think about that. These two people are not the same. And they're two people. That's my whole point to this video. What you know and what you believe about the world makes you a person. It's a separate mind. This guy had a mind and this guy had a mind. The simple fact of the matter is, at the cross, one of these guys has got to go. Because they're two different people. One guy created the universe and knows every minute detail about it. One guy says God, someone other than himself, created the universe. And he, quite frankly, doesn't know anything about it. He doesn't know how that looked. He doesn't know any of that. So, they're two people. They know completely two different sets of knowledge. One has hopes and dreams and fears. I don't think this one does. What is he afraid of? What does he hope for? What does he dream of? This guy's all things. This guy's nothing. They're so far apart. And when you say he's just a nature, that's what died on the cross. This limited person died on the cross. And this limited person was resurrected. And this limited person receives revelation to give to John later on. This limited human being. So think about that. How do you really at night sleep and get around the fact that there's two separate people? You tell yourself it's one person. But after the cross, which one of these does not exist anymore? One of these has to die. One of them has to go away forever. And which one are you willing to say that is? The one that existed in eternity past, or the one that saved the world by his blood? Which one's not real? Because they're not the same. God bless.